right, gang, here we go. It's episode 104. And we're doing a quick solo one here with you guys to make the short announcement / explanation of the new merch line, High Drop Dimension line. Wearing my bucket hat right now with the brim tipped up like a freaking sailor. And there's also, it's kind of got a wintry theme. We got a real nice Champion tie-dye hoodie. We got the zip pullover, kind of a golf thing from Adidas. The hoodie's Champion. We got a long sleeve tee. We got an organic rib beanie. All got variations of colors and all with that Dimension logo, which is built on top of our previous line, the Sight line. And it's just kind of the next evolution. What I do is I sort of just take the themes that I'm excited about or that are showing up in my life, and I create with them, and then, you know, I throw them out as the next line. And I've released more items of clothing, I think, this year than podcast episodes. So yeah, I'm aware at least. I know we got a little different ratio going on than we ought to with that, but whatever. It is what it is. I hope you guys like it anyways. It's fun for me, and it's a great way to support the podcast that is kind of tangible and not just kind of donation based or anything. So I hope you guys dig it and hope you guys get it. They're not too expensive. They're not too cheap either, but the margins aren't crazy or anything. I'm not making buku bucks per se. So it's quality stuff, and it's at a decent price, and I like it because I can get some wholesale stuff for myself. You know, what up? Yeah, Dimension. Just quickly to explain for you guys, you know, what this theme is kind of about and why the new line is Dimension is, it kind of speaks for itself, but it's all about these multiple and more subtle dimensions, especially that, you know, are kind of getting explored more, at least in my world right now, maybe in yours too. I think it's part of the story of our generation to an extent, you know, for millennial, or not just millennials, but everyone that's alive, you know, right now, but maybe especially my generation to a degree, because we're at an age where we're sort of moving in and stepping into our roles as sort of the stewards of the earth, you know, for our time when we are becoming adults and, you know, going to hold the space, you know, and hold the just hold it, you know, the culture for our time before we pass it down, and you know, we haven't quite taken it yet from, or it hasn't been quite given to us yet per se. You know, who knows how that's going to go from previous generations. But anyhow, I do think that it's kind of a story of our generation to explore and to reactivate and to rediscover and become sensitive again to the more subtle dimensions of life. I think we've got caught up in certain more materialistic, more, I want to say like rational and, you know, other dimensions that are very valid and have gotten us a long way, technology and scientific exploration and advancement and innovation, which I think is still very important, and that will continue to develop. You know, things like blockchain and things that are still very exciting, I think, in those spheres, which is, and again, you know, that's the beauty of the word dimension. They're all dimensions, baby. The dimension of blockchain, the dimension of parkour, you know, and everything inside it. Also, you know, there's infinite dimensions to explore always. And that's sort of the beauty of it. You know, the more you can explore them, the more subtle you can get, the more insight you sort of get, because you get more perspective and you get more awareness of what perspective you actually have and what you're measuring. And that's really, again, with the word dimension, it just means basically two perspectives of the same thing, and that forms a dimension. So die meaning two and mention meaning to measure in the etymology, the Latin roots. And yeah, I think it's just a cool thing happening. This next few years is gonna be crazy. So if you're weird like me and you follow people that are kind of more out there and less mainstream and, you know, on these more subtle dimensions and talking about dimensional reality and stuff already. Like this guy Matthias, I can't remember, Matthias DiStefano. He's like this guy who makes claims to having reincarnated and, having a remembrance of his past lives and things. And whatever, like, your thoughts are on that. There's so many different ways to interpret that. But again, it's good to understand, like, what is the perspective? What is the dimension that you are trying to take it and measure it against? Like, that can help you infer, like, what amount of truth is involved in those claims and how much you want to remain skeptical of it. And, I think just like with parkour is like the perfect analogy always for this audience. There's people that have so many misconceptions about parkour. They're going to shout parkour at you in the streets. They're going to tell you to do a backflip or whatever because they don't have any understanding. They have no depth of dimension. They have, one singular meme. That is their understanding of what parkour athletes and practitioners do. But if they started training, and that might have been your perception of it even, a couple of years ago, if you're new or any community, that you haven't really explored, you might have huge blind spots. But as you get more involved, you can understand actually the more subtle things happening and realize that maybe there is some truth to it, that there is, for example, some bravado or some attention seeking happening, that this is a misconception often with people doing, roof jumps and extreme shit or whatever. Yeah, there's maybe an extent that is true in some practice to a degree, but it's also way more complex than that, and that's probably not the majority factor for almost anyone that is accused of being that way. It's a very minute detail, but it's in there. And there's a whole explanation as to why, those things come about. Like that again gets more subtle about what is the solution of this attention. Like why would they want that, etc. Then you get into psychology. I'm already unraveling in terms of the tangents I'm going off here, but basically all that to say, I think that it's exciting times for just what we're going to find out about reality again. That might be sort of have been dismissed and or just unexplored and left unknown because we had so much momentum going in one direction. And, as we've come to a sort of, I can't remember the term. Plateau, I guess, will work. Plateau with those ideas. The newest development is this generation of sensitivity to more consciousness and awareness around these more subtle dimensions. And that's why you see, I think, all these movements around awakening and spirituality and who knows where the patterns overlap and where they become more legitimized. But I love keeping an open mind, and I love just keeping on exploring because in many ways, that's what I always loved about parkour, is that it could give you a really good relationship and exploration of what's real in the world. And by opening and expanding your mind, you're able to do more incredible things and confronting, these certain fears and prejudices that you might have had against, certain activities or whatever, even like movements. You get to expand and create more awareness, more consciousness, and more understanding when you come up against the limits of those lesser formed or lesser, unexamined ideas. And hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I think I kind of got real a little bit vague with that. But anyhow, in my head, it made sense. I'm working on it. I'm still exploring. I'm still mining the depths. And yeah, I could be out of my goddamn mind. So let me know if you think that and what you think I should be looking at instead, and what are we going to explore that's real and that's going to help us, evolve and just, as individuals and as a species, and Where are we gonna go? That's gonna be exciting. So love you guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble on here for a few minutes, and be sure to check out description, for more content, more information, and ways to support the podcast. And we'll see you guys on the next episode and future ones coming up after that. Much love.